Go. And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the spoiler room. It is a new month, and so we have a new theme here, and it is All Legs Month. And we've got a perfect movie tonight to kick off All Legs Month because there's a lot of leg going on.
There are a lot of leg.
And there's a lot of leg going on in tonight's movie as we kick off All Legs Month, which means we're looking at films that involve spiders. So, it should be a lot of fun. And I've got a great crew tonight to talk about the 1960 schlock B film known as The Horrors of Spider Island, or original title, Ein Toter hing im Nichts, or something along that line.
That. That's close. Works for me.
Probably
close enough.
Close enough. Murdered. So first off, he is back with us. Man, myth, the legend himself, Mr. Joe Randazzo is here. How you doing, Joe?
Hey, everyone.
So glad you could join us in the web of mystery and sleaze.
I cut it close. I almost wasn't able to join you, so I'm glad I managed to get the movie in with all the work I had to do today.
As am I. And with us, the man who keeps coming back for more, and I'm sure he questions these decisions at times. It is another Ian Simmons. How you doing, Ian?
You know, I'm glad we had the pre-show / post-show because I was genuinely depressed coming into this conversation, and I'm in better spirits, ready to talk about the horrors of Spider Island.
Trust me, you're not the first person to accidentally mispronounce it occasionally. And back with us from parts unknown, weighing in at a weight unknown.
That's probably for the best.
From Milwaukee, Wisconsin, we welcome to the ring, Doctavius, the doctor. Doc is back with us. Hey, Doc, welcome back to the spoiler room.
Well, it's nice to be here finally again. Finally landed in a spot where I could make one of these.
Yeah,
So you're from do you know Demolition?
I've met them a couple of few times.
Were they your neighbors in Parts Unknown?
Yes. Cactus Jack Manson. Yes, he lived down the street. You know, Truth or Consequences was just around the corner.
Actually, speaking of, did you go to Crusher Fest?
I did not end up having that opportunity. This every year it comes around, and every year something gets in my way, and I miss it, unfortunately.
What's Crusher Fest?
Crusher Fest?
It's exactly what you think it would be. It's
the wrestler of the Crusher.
The wrestler of the Crusher, yes. Who's been on for a while. I forget exactly how long it's been now, but a few years back they put up a statue of a man in South Milwaukee near where he lived, and it's just him, and he's got the beer barrel there, or the keg.
All
so
right.
they have a little festival. They have some wrestling and whatever Chris Jericho's current band.
Yeah, Chris Jericho was
I
there.
forget what it's called now. It's not Fozzy anymore.
Is it not
Fozzy?
Fozzy?
It's not Fozzy. It's not Fozzy.
Oh.
That's why I can't remember it. Because I was like, I don't know this name, and it didn't stick. I know I had friends that were down there, so I'll get to hear about it. But
cool.
I had no idea he had a second band.
Neither did I until a couple of days ago when they said, "Oh, he's going to be there with so and so," and I'm like, okay.
Remind me of Chris Jericho when we do our shilling at the end, because there's going to be Jericho involved in that, and there's going to be spiders involved in that. It's weird. It just worked out this way now.
All right.
Awesome.
Can I, before we move on, can I just express my disappointment in the fact that Crusher Fest was not like an epic autograph signing with Gates McFadden and Will Wheaton? I
don't know if
wrestlers and music.
I don't know if they still do it, but they did do the Mr. Saloon stuff for a while, the competition, because Crusher always said he was Mr. Saloon. So
you had to, you go.
Trivia, and you had to throw the keg or something. I don't remember. My buddy Keith still is protesting 3 years ago when he did not win because he feels he was cheated. So he went with a petition to still get his win reinstated. One of these days.
One of these days. And one of these days, folks are probably tuning in going, are you going to talk about Horrors of Spider Island? Sure, we're going to talk about Horrors of Spider Island from 1960.
Sorry, what?
And we already have a comment. We got SLF Abides, of course. SLF Abides. Looking forward to this. We are looking forward to this as well. So thank you for venturing down the stairs, pulling up a chair, and popping your favorite drink with
Oh, I'm
us. I
ahead of you.
am
I got
drinking
coffee.
Wisconsin Blue tonight.
I got coffee at 9:30 at night.
Me too.
I have coffee late at night too.
That's the way
So
Gathering place. My bad.
we are going to give it to the man who has not been here for a while.
I thought that might happen.
That happened. Cigar. Yeah,
So you want me to tell the
you've
story
got
of
the
this, huh?
discs. You've got the discs, so you can choose.
I mean,
your stop
as
sign.
much as you can of the very minimal amount of story there is in this.
What are you talking
There's
about?
not a lot.
This
No.
this is a multi-layered story that has a lot of metaphor, allegory, and other social commentary about the state of the socio-political situation in 1960. No, it doesn't. Doc, go ahead.
I was waiting for you to finish. That was me
Yeah.
being patient.
No, that's
um,
fine.
It's
That's what she said. Sorry.
the worst thing about this film, and I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just trying to start this off on a positive note. Is that the more I watch it, the more I like it, and that seems weird to me.
Mm.
I
But
feel the same way.
good. It's not just me then. But very basically, it starts in what appears to be Hollywood, based on the palm trees and everything, and the big street.
B-roll.
And
I
there's
know exactly where this is going.
American Dad. So there's the gentleman that's with his assistant and an agency, and they're working to get a dance troupe up that are going to go to Singapore. And they pick out the girls that they want to go along that are accomplished dancers, and they get them
He'll
on a
take their word
plane.
for it.
I'm
He'll
sorry.
take their word for it at least.
Some of them he'll take
He'll
their
take
word
their
for
word
it.
for it. They're
He's
accomplished
met
dancers.
some of them
Some of
before.
the audition. Some of
Depending on which version you watch, you don't get to see all of them actually audition,
Yeah, that's
which
right.
is a point to develop later, definitely. But they get on a plane. They're heading to Singapore. There's talk of them going over Honolulu. One of the engines comes into issue, and there's big fiery engine and screaming, and they crash in the middle of nowhere. They all manage to get into a boat, apparently, except for the pilots. I'm assuming they died because they never get mentioned again. But they're in this boat, and they're despondent. They've been in the boat for 5 days, and they're running out of water, and it's positive energy. We got to find something one of these days. And they see a bird go by, and they go, that's probably a good sign that they'll be land nearby. And then one of them goes, hey, look, Gilligan's Island. And they start paddling towards Gilligan's Island. I swear the picture of that island, every time I see it, I start singing the song in my head. I'm like, it's not the minnow, but man, it does kind of look like Gilligan's Island.
It does.
I don't know if the island is there. I know this got shot in Yugoslavia, so it's probably not Gilligan's Island. They get to the island. They manage to start to get settled from just not being in the water again. There's a lot of sleep. They find some water. They find a cabin, and there's a dead professor in a giant spider web in the cabin, and that doesn't go over well.
It doesn't seem to face them though either. So
they kind of go ooh, and then they get him out. They drag him off into the forest and just hang out in the cabin. He gets mentioned a lot, but it's like oh, it's a bummer. Very quickly within the first,
at times he gets mentioned as if he was part of their group all along.
kind of. It depends who's talking and when. Yeah. So they clear him out so that they can take over. It's really hot. There's the hot in paradise. They're like, everybody's getting edgy. They've just landed. They barely had food. There's some fighting going on, and eventually, just because there's one dude. It's just Gary that was running this thing. He's the one dude. He's holding everything together. He's a manly man, but in a nice way, and he's holding everybody together, trying to keep people positive, except for when he slaps that Gale for drinking all that water. And he goes off to just kind of stretch his legs because he's overtired and he just needs to rest, and he's going to come back and rest. And that's when he gets attacked by this weird spider thing who bites him and turns him into the were spider. I do like the makeup. We'll talk about it more later, but I like it. And he goes running off, and then we jump ahead almost a month.
Yeah.
Once the immediate he does end up killing one of the girls not long after that, the next morning when they're looking for him. But everybody's very tense, very afraid that it's going to be like attacks constantly. And nope, for the next month, Gary just goes and does whatever Gary does, and they're just hanging out. They literally, it's been 28 days, and I'm like, okay. And that is one of
Gary's off
the
being
main mind bogglers of this film is when you just kind of go, okay.
Gary's off being Spider-Man.
That's the only way
Gary-
you can get through anything in this movie. You just got to be like, oh, okay,
Spider Gary.
fine.
I like Spider Gary. But it turns out the professor, as you would expect, maybe once you've watched other films that are similar, where you just got a dude that's doing scientific experiments in one place, he's got people bringing him food every month. And it's been 28 days. So apparently the timing is they crash. And while they're in the boat for those 5 days, they came and dropped off food and they left. And then the professor got killed by the spider. It apparently must be fresh because he had enough food to last them for that 28 days, even though there's like 7 or 8 girls at this point who are eating it. And Gary's off being Spider Gary. But they're trying to start fires. They're trying to, they're signal fires. They're trying to bring ships over. It's not working. There's still some panicking and everything. And there's some swimming in the lagoon. And while that happens, that's when Joe Bob. That seems odd now that I say it out loud like that. But Joe and Bob show up to drop off everything, all the provisions for the professor, because they don't know. Why would they know? And Joe goes to go check on the professor, and Bob hears all the girls giggling and cavorting in the water. And he's like, "Hi."
I like the idea that you heard them jiggling.
It's probably accurate. You go,
A lot of
top
writing in
time.
this movie too.
How am I going to introduce myself to this young lady? Oh, I'm going to just grab her while she's swimming naked and pull her off to the rocks.
Right.
Great way to make friends. They then realize, as things start to calm down and they actually meet each other. Oh, this is the American dance troupe that disappeared. You've been in all the newspapers. You've been on television. Everybody's been talking about you around the world. And they're like, oh, crap, really? And he's like, our ship's coming back in 2 days. Will you take us home? It's the best question in the whole movie. They're like, we got a ship coming. Can you take us home? And they're like, yeah. Why wouldn't we? You're the American dance. This will be great. You'll be on everything. They then decide immediately to celebrate. All the girls decide to dress like they're islanders because they are, having been there for a month. No one's tan. These are all very German, all very pale German girls that have not tanned over the course of the month, clearly. So they put just flowers on themselves and their little, undergarments and bikinis and things. It then gets very dirty very quickly because Bob is a himbo. And he's got a favorite, but he has to make sure every other lady gets a little time with Bob. Whereas Joe just picks out one girl. He just picks out Anne, and he likes her because she's from Minnesota. She's not the voice that she gets in the American dub, not at all.
No.
He goes, she's from Minnesota. I went, how are they going to keep her on the farm when they've seen Gary the Spider? But they have a party. Everything kind of goes, but then Gary shows up again. Spider Gary shows up. There's a lot of running. Another girl gets killed. Bob gets killed. It's Gladys. Gladys is the other one that gets killed. Yeah. So in this last rush after the party, after the happiness, after the nudity that's cut out of the U.S. print,
yes,
there's some more death, and they manage to chase Gary the Spider away with flares, and because it's Gilligan's Island, he runs into quicksand and he dies.
Yes,
and everybody else gets on the ship the next morning, and they go, "Oh, this will be a good time." And Finn.
Well done.
I spent a lot more time explaining that than I probably should have, but we have to have fun with these things.
I figured I've seen this movie 3 times now, and the first time was on MST3K when I was a teenager. So yeah, there is nudity that's cut out because this thing is so sleazy. But you've never seen it, and I got my copy's off one of those 50 movie DVD sets that
sure
you find somewhere. So yeah, I'm missing stuff clearly.
When you have seen the German cut, I went back actually. I know I'm probably jumping ahead, but I went back and glanced at a section in the U.S. cut to just see, because there's like a sequence kind of early on when they're in their cabin where was it Babs and Nellie fight?
Yeah, there's a fight.
There's a point where they fall off the bed and they're wrangling on the ground, and somewhere Joey Styles is yelling "cat fight," and there's a real janky cut.
Yeah,
when you see it, after knowing now, I go, that's the janky cut, because it's like they're kind of wrangling and they're just kind of like, and they just keep doing what they're doing. No, that's when Babs gets rolled over and Nellie just rips her shirt open.
Yeah,
and all of a sudden
German
you get a
cut.
continuity error.
Well, yeah,
because-
because she stands
Oops.
up later and
She's got a black undergarment.
she's got a bra later.
Yeah.
I caught that
But for like a moment, it's like, oh, look at that.
because I watched
about
it.
those?
I watched both versions within the last 24 hours. I watched the U.S. version, and then today I watched the German version because I had to, being the completionist. That
I watched
am.
the German version and then rewatched it to see where the edits were because those bits are still not dubbed in the English. So,
I didn't know it was.
and-
You can
oh,
watch. You can find the German version actually on YouTube.
Plex.
that's-
Oh.
Plex TV as well will have the German version on there.
okay.
And because the title card's in German, which threw
Yeah.
me off at first. I turned on the Plex version. I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, Plex has it. Cool. Watched it. And I'm like, oh, you know what? Not realizing that the current German version is still American dubbed, but the
Oh,
parts from the German cut are put back into the film, but they
Yeah.
didn't dub those. So you have, when you hit the German section that was originally cut out,
Yeah.
when there's dialogue, because they're suddenly speaking in German.
when you start it on here, it warns you that if you watch it with the English dialogue, it will revert back to German. Please don't panic.
Yes.
We're not going to
warn you,
redub those
yeah.
sections. It's not worth it. That's how I found most of the
Mm-hmm.
edits.
Yes.
And so I
That's-
kind of
that's
just went back and went, I'm pretty sure this is, oh yeah, that's very different. Yeah, that party scene
Yeah,
loses
Does the
like 5
German
minutes.
does the German version explain how small this fucking island must be? Because
No.
they're on
No.
it for 20.
No.
I mean, they're on it for 28 days. Yet for a good chunk of that, they don't see Spider Gary. Like how
Or
do
other
you not run
spiders.
into
It's
him?
Gilligan's Island. He's in a cave until necessary.
Or
he's
other
just hanging out.
spiders. Yeah. They,
Trying
no,
to see
the-
this webbing.
the only real difference between the German version and the US version is nudity, because not only the cat fight but the party fight, there's a whole hula dance by a topless girl in
That's
just
Nelly
a
again.
late Nelly, like
She's-
this whole like yeah
If you see that moment just briefly in the American cut, she's like wearing like a flower
yeah.
boa type thing that
Mhm.
kind of just comes down
And then they
about to
cut?
about here or so, and like right at the end of the sequence, you see her kind of dancing with Bob a little bit,
Ah.
and that is the only section they could put in the United, because it's like she's like basically like right on top of him, because she's doing a very we'll say erotic dance, sure. For lack
There
of
is a
better
lot
term.
of writhing in this movie.
There's a lot of writhing,
Yeah.
yes.
about as
And-
erotic as the dancing in Orgy of the Dead. Okay.
Wait,
so,
which one?
I would argue it's better than most of that, yes.
yeah.
But it's just like, hey, but it's very much, there's a lot of like, you can see what's going on, definitely.
Yeah.
And yeah,
My
only- really the only
other
thing-
thing is
well, sorry, go ahead.
the pilot deserves to. I don't know why they're leaving from Los Angeles and they're somehow seeing Honolulu, but when they fucking take off, you see New York Harbor and the New York skyline too. So
Yep.
somehow they managed to go
Yep.
way past Singapore, all the way back around into the United States, because there's no logical explanation for this.
Yeah, it is.
They're
That's all the
leaving from
B-roll
Los
they could
Angeles. They're
afford.
going over Honolulu. They crash over Honolulu on their way to Singapore, but somehow they see the New York skyline from their plane. They went the wrong fucking way and probably ran out of gas. This is the fault of the pilots.
I
Well,
believe
what,
that.
What more
Well, even-
do you want from Christopher
ahead, Ian.
Columbus Airlines? That's what they're applying.
Even at the end where they're like, they're going to be saved, they're like, we can't wait to see New York again. And it's like,
You came from LA.
okay, I mean, that's not where you came from, but I'm sure you've been there before. Why not?
Why not?
Well, a lot of them are accomplished dancers who have been around the world. So
There's also that.
Yeah, they
I've been
you
in
know,
Singapore before with the Sheik.
They're talking about Singapore. So, Ian, this was your first time watching this, I imagine.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So am I. Believe me. I just want to say given our previous conversation about the things that you all have imbibed in your misspent youth, it's not surprising that you have the stamina to watch this thing multiple times. I watched the German version unknowing, because I was like, oh, this is just one of those movies where they just randomly drop out of the English dialogue into the German. I didn't know anything about the cuts. So it's like an hour and 24 minutes. I'm pissed now because I'm like, I could have watched a shorter version of this. Damn it.
Oh, my version was 74 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The American.
I got out
version.
easy.
This was
Yeah.
124, guys.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
There's 10 minutes of nudity in this thing?
Yeah.
Mine must have been missing more than
Honestly,
just nudity.
that dance sequence is like almost 2 songs long.
Oh,
In the
okay.
party at the end, they cut a lot of that because it is just there's a lot of her visible.
Remember there used to be that expression, see it again for the first time? I need to do that with this movie because honestly, guys, I slept through large portions of this movie. I found it impossible to engage. None of it was funny except for the line about the hammer and the cabin. Like, look, it's a hammer. Look, it's a cabin. And then the wrestling scene, that was kind of fun. But other than that, like, you could have condensed this entire film into 15 minutes.
Yeah.
It's walking
not
around, terrible dancing, running from one part of a jungle set to another, and that's it.
Yeah.
I again, I had to try and put myself back into like 1960s. You don't have ubiquitous, pleasure in the back pocket. So maybe this is all some people got, but I don't have that problem. My problem is I'm watching a quote unquote movie and there's nothing going on.
Oh yeah, no,
This was excruciating. This was honestly one of the most boring films I've ever watched. And so when you guys are like, yeah, I watched it 3 times. I watched both versions of it in the last 24 hours. Like, how? Y'all have some Son of Jor-El stamina that I do not possess and will never possess.
I watched it 3 times over 30 years. So there's
Okay.
and the second time,
That's like me with Akira. That's a movie that I have to come back to because there's so much going on that I have to like absorb it and process for 10 years. But okay, sorry, go ahead, Joe.
well, I mean, in my case, I watched it on MST3K. Then a couple years ago, Celeste was showing it on Hexen Arcane, so I rewatched it to do a bunch of notes for her and send them off to her. And then then tonight. So the last 2 times I've watched it because I committed.
I do not count the MST3K version because I think that's the best kind. It's look, you'll appreciate this, Joe. I Spit on Your Grave. I think the only way I can watch that movie now is with the commentary that Joe Bob Briggs did on it on a DVD from 20 years ago.
I remember that.
I think Ebert did a commentary on that as well. But yeah, I can't watch that movie straight. So I could see MST3King the hell out of this movie. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
This is
it's the only way to watch it.
I don't get Doc and I wrong, but we've consumed films like this over the course of our friendship for many 30 plus years. I've watched films like this. That was kind of our connection, actually. Doc and I are kindred love because no one else that we knew loved these types of films as much as we enjoy these films.
We would inflict them on one another.
We inflicted them on one another. We would challenge one another sometimes. We were specific. Doc and I were the ones that when we had an overnight, hanging out at someone's house overnight, we would go to the video store. Yes, folks, look it up. Anyway, we go to the video store, and we would pick on purpose. We would try to find the schlockiest, worst film based off of the cover and the description. And we would marathon these at night, just one after the other. And man, did we find some doozies.
Yeah.
I thought the point of a sleepover was to stay awake, though.
We did. Somehow.
I don't
mean,
know.
if you're watching this kind of movie with friends and you're making fun of it as it goes, yeah.
No, this isn't a film this is definitely a group film that you sit with at least one other person, you can MSTK it. Don't get me wrong. This movie is awful. It's awful in so many ways. But I'm like Doc. This is like the 3rd or 4th time I've watched it. They at the Time Community Theater, they do every year. Actually, I just missed it. They had it this past weekend. They do a Schlock the Block sort of thing to where they play a full day for free admission. They just play a full day of just movies like this, A Day of the Shrew, all of these just like, B schlocky public domain type films, and they play them throughout the day, and you can go and you can just sit and watch them. And that's when I watched this last time in the theater, and it was fun watching it with an audience because we were just laughing at the spider, which this time around watching the spider puppet, I just had this Italian mafia guy in my head. Because he comes up, no offense, but he comes up the first time the spider comes up on Gary, he's got his kind of paw like this. I'm like, what you doing by my tree? I don't know why that popped into my head this time, but just looking at his expression and everything, I'm like, these spiders are mafiosos, man. That's what's going on,
And the first time we see him, I don't know how they don't notice him, because he's like, I get trying to get at one of the girls like 20 minutes into the movie.
Yeah.
And he's like right there when they walk away. He's not like hidden in the brush or anything. I'm like, how did they not see this thing?
I love that coverage. Because they're out looking for Gary. They get the scene where some of the girls are climbing down this hill or whatnot. And all of a sudden they cut to like this static image of just Gary, his full wear spider makeup, just staring at the frame for no particular reason. And then you're expecting maybe, okay, the girls are going to scream like this is implying they see him. No, they just cut to him like that. And then they cut back to them just la da 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 in the woods.
But that's tired. This entire movie, they literally find the professor dead, and like 5 seconds later, it's like, well, that chapter of our life is over. None of them are traumatized or anything.
Well, just the one maybe for a while. Anne seems pretty freaked out for like half the film, but that's one, from Minnesota.
She's our Judith O'Day,
Yeah. Well, let's back up a little bit because the selection committee. The selection of our cast of the dancers is hilarious because Gary, played by Alexander D'Arcy, he comes in with Georgia, played by Helga Frank, and they come in and they're judging, and Georgia's standing there, and the girls come in one by one. They want them in one by one, and some of them they come in, and he's just like, oh. And he's got this little signal where he crosses his leg if it's okay. And then later on, he explains to his buddy that's how he chooses it. I'm like, the whole audience knew that already, dipshit.
Yeah, it was already pretty clear. He made a production out of it.
Not to Germans in the 60s, friend. That was mind blowing.
I love the woman that just comes in and just unzips her dress and just takes it off. Like
he's like, let's just get this over.
I know why I'm here.
Well, that was great because she comes in and she starts unzipping it. And he just goes, "Oh, you're a stripper," and she's like, "Yeah, at times." He's like, "Weren't you working at the Sapphire Club last month?" And she's like, "Oh, you're very observant." He's like, "Yeah, she's hired."
Here he gets around. Well, and that's what throws me off because in the U.S. cut they don't show Kat being interviewed. That's only the German version. And I thought at first, I'm like, well, because she like walks in and they're like, "Oh, hi, it's good to see you again," and everything. You're like, and she goes, "Yeah, I haven't been eating much," and she like just immediately opens her shirt and just
she's got a bra on, but
she's got a bra.
She's like.
Yeah,
I thought, okay, maybe because it's the underwear. But then, like 2 sequences later, here's Linda just, poof, yep, this is me in my underwear. How you like it?
Oh man!
So I'm like,
they made sure we saw all those auditions. Jesus Christ! The first 10 minutes of the movie. So yeah,
I blame this movie for the downfall of Miramax Films. That's I can see a very young, impressionable executive to be watch. Hey, this is how it all works, right?
You mean like the first time, the first person that comes in, he's like, "Let me see the legs." Hence, All Legs Month, folks. This is just a coincidence, by the way. I picked spiders not because, but sure enough, and she's just like, "Okay," and she just raises her
dancers.
I
expect that must be part of just. I don't know. I've never had to audition to be a dancer. I just assumed that'd be part of what they
only
do,
two people dance that, and then we get the ballet person.
Because she had to get her ballet in because she wasn't getting picked.
Yeah, she was really talented, so they had her do this whole 2-minute ballet routine, and the guy, Gary's like unsure, so he like goes to cross his feet, and then he doesn't, and then he goes to almost cross his feet and then pull the sticker off the bottom of his shoe. And Georgia looks over and she seems disappointed. I think Georgia's got a little thing for the dancers, but
that was the high drama point in the audition.
That was the high drama point, in the audition scene was
him the ballerina.
Well, this is the German movie, so I think she was actually performing a sequence from Schwann's Lake. Anyway, sorry.
I think the reason we only had two of them dance is probably because of all the girls they cast in this movie, only two of them could dance.
I found that very believable.
Yeah, well,
that would make a lot of sense.
The ballet person definitely was, and what's even creepier about the ballet version is you have the talent agent Blackwell, who's very impressed by the talent person, the ballet person, so much so that even though Gary doesn't pick the ballet person, he pulls an old Weinstein move and goes,
"Oh yeah, come see me tomorrow."
Come see me tomorrow.
He's an agent. That's how he gets paid. He has to get these people work.
His dialogue is literally, he puts a coat over her. He goes, "It's okay, darling. Come see me tomorrow. I have a different role for you." And I'm just like, oh my God.
I actually hadn't gone that way this time watching that. I was being oddly innocent, apparently.
There is something else regarding that character. After the plane goes down, he's on the phone and he says something to the effect of, "Well, we don't know we don't know what's going on. We don't assume the worst. We just," and you find out, I haven't heard from them in 4 days. They kind of their plane kind of like disappeared over like a certain point. I'm like, wait, you just assume everything's okay? Their plane disappeared somewhere over the ocean. You haven't heard from them for 4 days. Like, they're probably all right. They're probably fine. We don't know anything yet.
That's another one of the edits. Is like there's another sequence with him later on when he gets a call saying, presumably a couple of days later, where they apparently find the wreckage, and he's like, "Okay, well, is everybody all right?" They're like, "Oh, we're gonna stop searching." He's like, "What?" He's just like, "No, you got to keep looking for these people," but that's the last time you see him. That is him, like, just completely just frustrated with.
Also, mine just cuts off at the end when they're on the raft. It's like right in the middle of a line of dialogue. It just abruptly ends and just the end.
At the end of the film?
Yeah.
Oh, when they're on the ship?
It says the end.
Yeah. Fiend.
Yeah, we get a Fiend title card. There's not much difference in the German when it goes off a little bit longer with them all on the boat looking longingly back at the island. And so we have rapey agent, we have creepy Gary, and we have closet Georgia here because there's at least a number of points where Georgia's giving a look like I'm like, maybe she is the one deciding who can, because it's a bit implied. So when they get to the island, that was my favorite part of this is like they get to the island, they find the cabin and they find the doctor in the web. Now in the German version, they have it to where they're actually cutting him down from the web versus the US version where they just cut to the girls waiting outside, as you can see in the distance, Gary and Georgia hauling off the body. And what I love about this part is that nobody questions really where the spider web came from or how he died. And you would think Gary would know because he seems to be a well-rounded individual, since he knows just by finding a single hammer with a long handle, he must be looking for uranium.
It was the style at the time. A lot of people were looking for uranium.
You say well-rounded. I found him kind of boxy.
Oh.
When he's in that suit at the beginning of the movie, he's the most square torsoed man I've ever seen in my life.
He is. Well, what's even more funny though is what I found interesting is the spiders, which even though it says the horrors of Spider Island, the spiders only seem to live in the log, or like in a very small area. How quickly he turns. I mean,
yeah,
that's true.
He gets bit and it's like boom. Another incidental comedic moment is so they run into Gary. The girls are all frustrated. They get into the cabin. You get the cat fight, and Georgia brings order. She's standing by a window, and all of a sudden the little claw hands of Gary come out.
Yep.
And everybody screams, and then he pulls his hands away, and then she faints, and then we get this lovely scene of the back shot of Gary like walking away in the distance, and he puts his arms in the air like, dang it. Like, it's like, oh dang it. Like, I missed him again.
See, when he turns and then they do the cut of like 28 days later, I assumed that during that time he would morph into like a giant full-on spider monster or something.
They didn't have
That's
that in
why
the budget.
They didn't have that kind of money. I like the makeup they did for him, but it is very minimal. I think some of it is just because his eyes are so big, looking out of that for some reason. It's very weird.
It would have been cool if they had like black contacts or something, because the spider we see in the trees has like these big expressive black eyes. It's a really cool little puppet effect, and
I like it too.
The makeup and the German wrestling are the two highlights of this movie for me. Yeah.
It is a very distinctive look, if nothing else, because I keep expecting it's going to end up being like, oh, they're gloves, but it just kind of a lot of it you see in the distance or in moments, so it's hard to tell. But it looks like they just kind of added hair and claws to his hands, and then there's just a very detailed. It's not just like a mask; it looks like they just added all that. To him.
A bunch of little prosthetics, and then the teeth are kind of weird. You got the one coming up and the two going down. Yeah, it's crazy.
So it's very distinctive in that way, and it doesn't look as cheap as you would expect a monster movie to look. This is not a monster movie by any stretch. This is an adventure movie with a monster in it. But even so,
although the reveal of Gary, because I used to watch a lot of Monster Vision and things like that. So there was a show that would come off after Joe Bob went off the air called 100% Weird, when they would just show like some weird old movie. And I think that if I remember correctly, I think that Gary's reveal is part of the intro to 100% Weird. So I was like, what movie is that? And then I eventually saw it on MST3K, and I'm like, oh, okay, okay. It's one of the really, really bad ones. And this is one of those infamously bad movies too.
Okay, I feel better now that I had an allergic reaction to a notoriously bad movie.
Yes, no, it is in Notorious Bad. I can't pick always the really good ones. Okay,
yeah, but if you're gonna pick the bad ones, you pick bad ones that we can at least laugh at.
I couldn't. I'm laughing. I'm having more of a great time with you guys than I did watching the movie. Now, granted, maybe if I had had a couple and was watching this with a group of people like that. Like I would totally go see this at the Time Theater with like a popcorn, a soda, and a free audience. But yeah, there's just something about watching this alone. I wanted to jump off that cliff they show at the end. Like, take me.
They're trying to light the fire.
We don't even get a shitty dummy for this either, though. Because
it's very
nothing happens and then everything happens. It's one of those films to where you get shit happening in the beginning, where you get a couple people die, you get Gary turning, and then you get the middle section where pretty much nothing happens except the cat fight and all. And then later on, when the two guys show up, things get really awkward with them. One guy jumping between girl and girl, the other one grabbing a girl and getting her on the beach, and them falling in love, even though he seemed to he seemed to assault her naked.
He does.
But then they start the party and they do the party. Then all of a sudden it's like the one guy he's got his appointment. He goes to meet one of the girls down at the beach and ends up crossing paths with Gary, who kills him finally, because Gary, I guess, is hanging out by the same stump as the other spiders. That's where he lives, is the spider stump.
The spider log.
And then that's when things go wild and they get the flares and they chase them into the, and these two guys are the creepiest guys. Oh my God, these supply run guys are so
Bobby
wicked.
especially. Joe is a different level of creepy, and I appreciate they're not the same level of creepy. That there's some very awkward dialogue, but they're awkward people, so somehow it works for me very well. When he's talking to Anne, and I'm like, they're both incredibly awkward. So the dialogue being awkward somehow makes sense to me at this point, having seen this 4 or 5 times in my lifetime.
Well, and then we get, who is it? Bobby, who's the
Bobby's
woman,
the himbo.
the himbo. We get him to where at one point he goes from sober to drunk
In like 2 seconds.
in like 2 seconds. He goes into the cabin. He has a discussion with one of the girls. He comes who says, "Leave the innocent Minnesota there, yeah."
No. He's going to Gladys.
Oh, that's right. He's going to Gladys,
With
and
Joe.
they say, "Leave Gladys alone." And then when he comes out of the cabin, he's drunk.
Talking
because he
about how these
starts-
girls are worthless.
He starts a fight with
Joe.
with Joe, and they about to fight. And they're like, "Oh wait, not out here." So they go in the cabin and they start beating the shit out of each other.
Because the
And then
cabin's not on location, Mark.
And then the one guy goes, "Oh wait, I've got my appointment. I gotta go." And then they laugh and leave. And I'm like, "What the fuck?"
Here-
It just-
Just think this is how Americans fight.
There's an extra on the Blu-ray featuring.
Wait, you have this on Blu-ray?
This is a Blu-ray.
Who put that
Oh.
out? Severin or Vinegar?
Severin. A
Oh,
couple
is
of
that
Yeah,
years
this,
ago.
this
Yeah.
feels like it would be a Severin release. Yeah.
Oh, it's a slipcase. I thought it looked like a DVD.
No, that's a slipcase.
Nice.
Yeah, it's
It's
got
Stiverin does a really good
it's got
slipcases.
a
so, yeah.
different. They're
Oh,
very
Next
keen.
time they do one of their sales
Oh,
where
the
they're
black
like
ones.
doing a clearance or something, I'll pick it up for $3 or something.
Yeah, no,
That's how I got a lot of my
excellent choice.
Severin titles. They were doing one of those sales a couple years ago. It's like these titles all have to go $3 each. It's like add to cart, add to cart, add to cart,
Wow.
add to cart, add to cart.
An excellent way to do that. Yes. But I didn't say his name. He's a professor. It's a Professor Dr. Martin. Hang on, Stiglegger. It seemed made up, but he seems like a
Well,
real dude.
Professor Doctor would indicate it's probably made up.
That also made me. But
Did you say
just listening to it, I'm
Stickler?
like, he's actually saying real things though. He's not just doing this. It wasn't a schlocky character. It
Oh,
was
he's not
him,
doing a bit.
It's not doing a bit. That's what threw me off. I thought it was going to be a bit because he noted it was filmed in Yugoslavia, and this is part of the style of movies at the time that were, because this is still made 15 years or so after the end of the war, that this was a period where audiences wanted escape fantasies that were not completely disturbing. So that's why this isn't really a horror film. It's got a horror element in it. It's more of an adventure film. And he also pointed to the Edgar Wallace films as being very popular at the time because of that. I'm like, those are fun. I have not seen enough of those.
Yeah, those tend to lean
Those
a
are
little
also
darker.
very ridiculous and often, but
and a lot of times very racist.
unfortunately.
A lot of those movies I watch. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Time capsule. Yeah.
You time capsules, unfortunately. So in looking at it, trying to look at it in that context of here's this weird adventure. And oh, by the way, Spider Monster and girls. And I'm like, I can see why this might have been popular given that context, that people would have gone to see this. To speak about the racism though, the guy that played Bobby is better known in Germany for having been the German voice dubbing international films. They said he dubbed guys like Elvis and Tony Curtis, but he would do so by ad-libbing sometimes sexist and racist comments.
Oh.
So those actors are, some of those people are perceived differently in Germany because this one dude, because of the himbo.
Oh.
And I'm like, holy crap, that's not good. But oh, is that funny? And it's like also kind of like, I need examples. I need examples now. I need to know about this more.
And the distributors who release these movies overseas never went, hey, can you tone down on
I'm guessing they did not care.
That sounds like the subplot of a movie. You've got this international superstar who can't go to one country because he's perceived horribly because of the dubbing actor.
I like that idea.
I like that idea
a lot.
quite a bit.
You're not allowed in Germany. Why? I've never been to Germany before. What could I have ever done?
Well, that country specifically, there are things you cannot do. That
Yeah.
Yes.
you can.
It would be. It
As
would be.
JBL found out to his almost dismay some years back. Yes.
No,
You don't find that funny anymore. You go to jail when you do that.
yeah, what's even more interesting is seeing how Americans are perceived through the German lens, because this is an East German, this is a German film, and they're trying to portray Americans. Obviously, if you look at it, it's in America, but it's like, wow, it's because Gary, the guy that got to play Gary looks like the poster boy for some like 50s recruitment
he's
poster.
Egyptian. No, he's Egyptian born. They would
Really?
Yeah. What did they? The main other thing that they kind of pointed to in that when they were discussing him, they said he's in How to Marry a Millionaire with Marilyn Monroe.
Really?
Yeah.
Who's in that?
I don't know. It didn't say the character. They kind of go through some of his credits. And they had a picture from the film with them together, but
yeah, he's in it as in like he's some bachelor that's into her in some scene, and in Germany that's a big deal, or wherever he's from it's a big deal because oh my god, you're in a movie with Marilyn Monroe, and
right. You get star credit now. Yeah.
Let's just say that this guy's filmography, it explains a lot why he's in Horrors of Spider Island, because he'd go on to be in The Festival Girls and Russ Meyer's Fanny Hill. But then he was also in a TV show of Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, The Incredible Sexual Revolution. He was played a shop owner in Batman.
Which Batman? The 60s
I'm
Batman?
thinking the 60s.
Yeah.
Huh.
But yeah, he was in a
That's
number
another reason
of
to watch Adam West Batman.
But he got himself a good little crash course in what he'd run into with Russ Meyer movies in this one.
Yeah, he did.
It's the beginner level.
I just
for
want
Russ Meyer goes on a whole different level, obviously.
That one of those titles you just mentioned, The Incredible Sexual Revolution. That is one of my all-time favorite movie titles. I've never seen it or heard about it until just now, but I love it.
Are you afraid to watch it because there's no way it can live up to that title?
Oh no, I'm going to go look for it right after the show because I have to know what that's all about.
Was that a German film also? Because
I doubt it.
I'm wondering if this was around the time they were doing like the Schoolgirl Report movies and things like that, where
they do
basically they were making like sexploitation movies. But what they would do is they'd have a guy come out in a lab coat and like pretend that we're doing this for educational purposes.
Well, that's
this
how they would.
Schoolgirl's gonna fuck her headmaster.
If I remember that thing, I didn't write that down. I think the guy who produced those Schoolgirls.
Oh, did he?
So there's your connection.
Well,
Babs was in some of them, I think.
The Incredible Sex Revolution is also known as Leak Med Sex. It was filmed in Tehran. It was filmed in Tehran, Iran.
Oh.
And it's
cheeky baby.
Clearly before the Iranian Revolution, because that shit would not have flown.
It was shot in Tehran, Iran. Apparently, the Incredible Sex Revolution was a troubled young lass, Margaret Peggy Bardot, candidly discusses her sexual hang-ups with a psychologist.
Yes, I was right. It's one of those.
Bardot's past negative experiences are related in flashback, while a psychologist does his to figure out the root cause of her problems.
It's a white coat movie.
Does he wear a lab coat? I'm sorry, a lab coat?
No, well, they did that a number of even the more hardcore stuff. They would pose them as educational, so they could play them in theaters. They would have a voiceover talk about, and now the man and the woman are found attracted to each other, and when they do that, they were
doing that since the 20s.
Yeah, it's like some nature documentary, only it's humans just boinking. And
if you ever want to watch the most boring movies ever made, go watch some nudist camp films. Those are on another level. It's just ugly people naked playing volleyball for 2 hours. Why is this on film?
I think Ian said something about pleasure not being in your back pocket available at the time. It was a trick. It was a trick to make you spend your money because you were hoping to see attractive people playing volleyball for 2 hours.
Well, I mean, if we think about it, though, we talked about it, the pre-codes, the Hays codes and that was still, a thing for a long time of what you could get away with. So something like Horrors of Spider Island is very salacious. Even the US cut with what they show, because like you had the ballet dancer and then you had the other dancer during the tryouts, and the way, mad props to the costume designer, whoever they were, that costume designed her dress, because when she spun, you could see her garter and undergarments as she spun, and that's why the guy went zoop with his feet like, yup, she's won. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's how they got away, and then the one girl shows her legs, the other one is in her undergarments, they're in bikinis constantly. You look at this and going, yeah, this is being released in a, this is like showing the ankles type of thing for Amish type, you get a whole youth who've been, what, come on now, you've got a whole youth group probably that have grown up since the 40s into the 50s that haven't seen a lot of this on film, and so this would be played underground, this would be this would be salacious. It's like, oh,
but I mean, even I've only seen the US version. I was like, this is pretty sleazy, and I didn't see an inch of nudity on this.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah, because the swimming scene is they only use the wide distance shot in the American version. In the German version, they do zoom in a bit on them for a little bit longer.
That amuses me so much at the end of that, where the Gladys is screaming and they're like, we have to go help her. But at the same time, I can't stand up because I'm completely naked.
Yeah.
And then everybody will notice I have to try and swim in like 6 inches of water.
I loved that we got to go help Gladys. And so they swim. And I'm like, oh. And then you look at them and they're like, wait. And so they're like walking on their hands in the water as their body floats as they try to walk off camera. And you just... Oh man!
Yeah, if this ends up playing at the Times Theater again, I would go. I'll
let you guys know.
Let me know when they do the schlocky things. I'd come up to Milwaukee for that.
I didn't realize they were doing it this last
in
weekend.
Oshkosh.
It's
in Oshkosh, so it'd be a few hour drive for you. But still. But yeah, I mean, this film, it is what it is. I wanted to cover it because I wanted to have this discussion with you guys. I didn't mean to torture you, Ian, but
what I'm here for. good or bad, it's
right.
But I mean, most of the movies we're covering this month are bad. So
yeah, they aren't gonna be too great. I know. All right, but
Kingdom of the Spiders is fun bad though. So this is fun bad.
The giant spider invasion is fun for a specific character in it, but that was fun, and I'll share my experience next week.
Gilligan's Island.
Yes, I will share my experience watching it with the director at the Waiawega Opera House that they did for the 50th anniversary celebration. It's been touring the Midwest at Wisconsin, showing at various theaters, and the director's been there most of the time. And they talk about shooting it in Wisconsin on pretty much no budget and that. But it is completely... That is a film that really is one of those low budget early indie films, that's 50 years old now, that's just got charm to it though, namely because some of the cast, including, yes, a Gilligan's Island connection. And that'll be next week for our Over the Hill special. But for this one, we've probably discussed it more than most people have ever paid attention to Horrors of Spider
It is
Island.
hard to pay attention to it.
It is. No, this is
boring.
This is a film this is one of those films, and we've talked about a few of them over the years here, and Doc and I have watched them regularly. They're the ones that you either sit down and watch with a group at a party, or you have it playing around in the background to where you got a few of the guys who are drinking, sitting on the couch and you're watching, and you make commentary and you enjoy, you have fun. It is, I totally get Ian's experience, because even myself watching it by yourself, not quite as much fun as sitting with an audience and you're laughing like when a guy delivers a bad line, or something really goofy happens and people laugh. It is bad movie. This is one of those that it is so bad it is a party movie that you really just enjoy, and you don't feel so bad cutting on this one because it is just
it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Yeah, you don't have to pay attention to it because there isn't a lot going on in terms of story. So you
really.
can
Beginning
you
and the
can
end.
leave the room for long intervals at a time, come back, and have missed nothing of significance.
Except
I did
except the-
that without leaving the room, though. My
Except
eyes are
the
just so heavy.
the girls just talking about surviving on the island and then how it got hot and then how they would just lay around and then until the guys showed up. And then what I loved about when the guys showed up, the supply run guys, is like within 5 minutes it was like Scooby-Doo all together. It was like they show up, oh, there's guys. One guy makes it with a girl on the beach. The other guy is with the girls. They're like, oh, you're the American troop. And then like 2 minutes later, they're like, hey, good news. We've radioed the ship. We're going to be rescued tomorrow. And they're like, party. And I'm like, no, like you said, nothing happens in the middle of this film. And then all of a sudden it's just like, yeah, let's go. We wrap this up. I'm just like,
Wait, we're supposed to end this thing, but we haven't started the story yet.
yeah.
It's the weirdest thing to me for this, and I because again, I've seen this. I saw it when I got the DVD back at Best Buy
Sure.
20 some years ago when they actually had physical media, and like the one at Northridge got like everything every week. So it was like, oh, cool, something weird. I have no clue if this will be good or not, but I'm going to buy it, and watched it. And watching it in Oshkosh last year, and then watching it again for this, every time I watch it, it seems shorter, and I don't understand why.
It does.
Because it's like you said, there's not a lot that happens, so sometimes it feels like a very long film even though it's a short film. I think, Joe, you were saying like the US cut's like 74 minutes.
Yeah,
That 74 minutes can feel like 2 hours even
It-
when you're watching it with people, because you're like, oh, we're only at this part yet. I cranked it. It felt like it just kind of flew by last night when I'm watching the German cut, which is longer, and I'm like, how is this possible? Because nothing else really new is happening. All I'm adding is just dancing.
You've grown accustomed to it, and it kind of feels like a warm blanket at some point, I guess. And that's the only thing I can think of with it.
That is a really good way to explain why Mark and I were going, yay, this is stupid fun. And Ian's like, what are you talking about?
I
Because fell asleep through half of this. There's nothing that happens. And I'm like,
if you watch it with MST3K,
right.
Ian, you'll probably enjoy it a lot more. Because
I don't know that I ever watched that version. Yeah.
They have that version on YouTube as well. Yeah.
Okay, I'm not shocked. I'm actually surprised it's not on this disc. I've seen other discs where they've managed to license the MST3K version. That were
Shout Factory is very weird since they bought it. Like, they don't let a lot of people. Like a friend of the show who does, she's a horror host in the area. Shanta, Sorcerer Celeste. She's shown.
I know her.
Oh, she's awesome. And actually, I'm going to plug it because I'm on her latest episode. But she has shown public domain movies that were shown on MST3K, and Shout Factory has tried to shut down her channel. And she's like, no, these movies are in the public domain. You own the MST3K version. You don't own the movie.
No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, copyrights get sticky. But that's why we will always have Godzilla vs. Megalon, the VHS version, which is forever in public domain. I bought that the box, the MST3K box set that had that on it back when it first came out, and then I found out later that it was recalled, and now it was worth like thousands of dollars because like those of you who have it. Nice.
Because apparently they didn't have the rights to put it out on DVD for some reason.
Oh,
that's interesting. So that's the horrors of Spider Island. It is what it is. I appreciate Ian's patience and muscling through it, and Joe wanting to visit again, and Doc. I knew when you said you were going to be on this. I'm like, I'm not surprised. All right, we know our tastes, and we do have a few comments here by SLF Abides. They were looking forward to this. And then SLF says, this is one of my faves. It's so horribly wonderful. And I love that phrase because that is a prime example of this. This is a film that is horribly wonderful for those who like B movies for sure. She says the party scene seems like half the movie. It is pretty much half it's like that's the third act. It's like they're writing it was like they're writing the script and they're like, okay, so the third act starts with the boys showing up and Wait, how much runtime do we need? Party scene.
How about
There
we
we
have
go.
this girl dance for a prolonged period of time with a boob?
Wait, will one of the actresses get naked? Yes. Okay, party scene with dancing. All right.
That's how you have a 7-page screenplay for a 74-minute movie.
That's right. That's exactly
Oh yeah.
screenplay.
Well,
What are you
let me
talking
ask you
about?
guys: if you don't have people dancing randomly for 7 or 8 minutes, how do you get your movie to feature length?
That's
Answer
right.
me that.
Two things are true.
Look
There's
at
only
it,
so much plot you can put in a movie,
it
and
worked
5
for
minutes
Ed
worth.
it worked for Ed Wood in Orgy of the Dead, which is
The movie is
literally
just dancing.
just dancing, and Griswold smiling awkwardly, trying not to pass out from the last beverage he had.
He looked the worst I've ever seen in Orgy of the Dead.
He,
In the
True things are
beginning of
true.
that movie.
he looks rough. This
I am
pleases me.
Criswell.
Oh, and it looks like, for some reason, it looks like they had the light like right on his face because he's like this as he's introducing it in the
Oh,
beginning.
he was definitely stoned during that. He was stoned.
I
Yeah, there
am
you go.
Criswell.
He was so stoned
Ouch.
during that movie, and he's just like, "This pleases me. This pleases me greatly." And he,
Sure
like,
it does.
You're not even on the same stage as him.
He never read whatever the screenplay was because he's looking directly
Yeah,
to the
Keith Garden.
side of the camera when he's doing his dialogue. And you can see his eyes moving as he's reading the
I've already done an episode on Orgy of the Dead. Let's not do another one.
I haven't seen it in 25 years. The fact that I even remember that
I
is
still got that VH. I still got
See,
that
it sticks out in your
VHS.
mind. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I still got that VHS.
I gotta
And
get
then,
that Edward box set that just came out too.
and SLF
I got
Abide
you.
says, "I made my family watch this with me."
For teenage daughters, yes.
She made her family watch Horrors of Spider Island. That's
What could
true
they have
love.
possibly done to make her that upset?
See, some households it's go stand in the corner. Some households I'm taking your iPad away, and then some households say this is going to be the last time you lie to me. Sit down. We're watching Horrors of Spider Island. No, take my iPad time.
Did
Take
her
my screen
family-
time. No,
Did she raise her family on the fucking satellite of love? Like she's just coming out. She's like, this week you're watching Jailbait by Ed Wood.
Oh, I
That's
gotta
the
watch
last
that.
time you pissed me off.
Don't make me get out Plan 9 from outer space.
Again,
Manos, the Hands of Fate is right there.
if we're gonna start talking about movies that have creeped their way into my, Plan 9,
Plan 9 is
no
adorable.
longer hurts. It doesn't
No, it
sting or
doesn't.
anything. It's just all fun for me.
I have the
Same.
soundtrack CD because I was like, oh, cool, the soundtrack CD, thinking it had the music to the movie. And it's the
That's the
soundtrack to
soundtrack.
the movie. So it's
I
the
have the Orgy of the
dialogue.
Dead disc, yeah.
It's
You
the
can just listen to the movie now.
It's
You
the
can just listen
movie
to the
on
movie.
CD is what the soundtrack.
Just
to-
fit on a CD.
Someone
No.
just ripped the audio and put it on CD and said, "Here's the soundtrack to Plan 9." I'm like, "Oh, soundtrack, music." And then I listened to going, "Oh no, soundtrack."
Literally the sound.
It's a track of the sound of the
Yeah,
movie.
I love Plan 9. I adore Plan 9. SLF Abide says never Plan 9. No, Plan 9 is different than Horrors of Spider Island. Horrors of Spider Island is when you hear the sleazy, schlocky films of the 60s, which is 1960 here, complete with the beatnik soundtrack to it.
It does get stuck in my brain now.
This checks like all the boxes for that underground B horror films that you hear of talked about in cult film books or on websites, but you're like, what? That's this film to a T. It checks marks every box, of that trope. And good or bad, I'm glad we covered it tonight. This has been a lot of fun to talk about it.
Mark,
Ian.
You missed the 10:32 p.m. comment from SLF Abides. That's the
Oh.
keeper. They do not remember watching it.
The family said they do not remember watching
They wiped it from their minds.
That's it.
Good choices.
They
That means they
literally-
have to watch it again now.
Yeah, see, now you got to make
no.
them watch it again. There you go. There you
So
go.
I apparently own this movie on 3 box sets. It's on the Chilling Classics box set, the Sci-Fi Classics box set, and the 12 Creature Features box set.
We'll see there. Yeah,
I'm
well,
not shocked.
I'm not shocked at
I
all.
probably have it on a couple of those too. It is not a sci-fi movie by any stretch. So
I was going to say, but
public
nonetheless,
domain.
talk about a set that needs to be recalled. Sci-fi classics.
Sci-fi classics equals whatever the fuck we could find that is in the public domain and has any tangential connection to science fiction.
I've got a stack
That's a
of
better title.
DVDs. I've got a stack of DVDs in the paper envelopes that say 50 classic films or whatever, and
None of those
they're
are
just
classic.
nothing. They're all public domain things. They are not
find
classics.
gems.
They are public domain
yeah.
that they got the rights to.
One of
distribute.
them was like a 1950s thing, and it had like a couple of Vittorio De Sica movies, but it was the American cut of it, so
Even
it'd be
so.
like a 75-minute version of Discretions of an American Housewife, but still you get the gist of it.
I've got a few of those anthologies here, the drive-in cinema ones and that are just nothing. And then when I'm going through, I haven't gone through it on purpose because I know you look through, you go, wait, didn't I just look at it? No, wait, this doesn't. But this one has only 2 different movies than that box, but they have the rest of the same movies between the two. But this one has 2 different ones, so I got to keep both because this one has 2 movies that are not on this one, and this one has a movie that's not on this one. So I got to keep both. The rest are all the same.
And every single one of those box sets has Night of the Living Dead on it.
Night of the Living Dead, The Bat.
The Bat.
The Terror. The Terror is usually a staple.
Yeah, The Terror is one of them. And if it's a non-horror one, His Girl Friday, which is a great movie, but it fell into the public domain. So
if you want to
not
fall
every one of these sets.
If you want to fall asleep, The Terror is a good one. that one is.
When did His Girl Friday become public domain?
I don't know.
Because it makes sense now because that movie Hard Eyes came out in February, the slasher movie, and they're showing His Girl Friday at the drive-in. That was like the big climactic set piece. And I'm like, oh, they probably, because they could show this classic, well-known romantic movie without having to pay a dime. It's brilliant.
Last year when we were showing It's a Wonderful Knife on the last drive-in. Joe Bob had me do all the notes for that, and it's actually funny because when it shifts from the real town into like the Hell Zone town, it goes from they're showing the Bells of St. Mary at the local theater to they're showing the 1935 Scrooge, which is in the public domain. So they actually go in the theater and that's actually playing. Like, oh yeah, because you don't got to pay for that one.
Nice.
I'm disappointed Joe Bob didn't use that note in the talk up of the movie.
It's why nearly every indie film I've watched since I've been covering indie films, if they're going to play a classic film, they're going to play Night of the Living Dead on the TV because they don't have to pay any rights for it.
And it's now getting remade again because
now it's remade.
Been 47 minutes. We need a new Night of the Living Dead remake.
This one in 4D because I did 3D already. I know.
But why not?
Sure.
And the SLF said they will absolutely watch Horrors of Spider Island again. Whether or not all of our members here on the board will watch Horrors of Spider Island again, I think I could take a bet. Probably not, at least one of us. So, but I hope you enjoyed the discussion tonight. Please like, subscribe, and all of that here. And now this is where my license to shill goes to these wonderful crew members who sit through films that I pick at random at sometimes. So first off, Joe, do you got anything to shill at all? License to shill is yours.
I worked on the new episode of The Last Drive-In that airs this Friday, and well, I can't say what the movie is, but it keeps in theme with what we're discussing this whole month.
Oh, cool.
This is going to be a movie that's all legs. So, or at least one of the two will.
No.
I'm also on the new episode of Hex and Arcane, which went up today. Celeste and I decided to watch the movie Spare Parts.
Ooh, nice.
Another German film too.
Another German film, yeah.
She literally was like, "Hey, I need a movie for this week." And I was like, "How long do you need it to be?" And I looked like, "Oh, I have this. Here, I'll send it to you." Cut out the little bit of nudity that's in it, and then we since part of the movie is about somebody being abducted from a motel, we decided we're gonna tell horrific motel stories. during her break-ins. So that was kind of fun. It's up now. Search Hexen Arcane on YouTube, and there you go.
Awesome. Which version is that of Spare Part? That was, or not version, but what year did that one come out?
79.
That was 79 one. Okay. Is that the one? No, that's Pieces. I was thinking of Pieces. Which one had Pluto in it?
I wish we could. I wish you could do Pieces, because Pieces is unfortunately that's not in the public domain. But Pieces is another one that's so wonderfully terrible.
Wasn't it at one point? I feel like I have a boot of it.
There was a box set that came out, and I actually still have the box set, called Bloodbath, and they got sued because they put Mario Bava's Kill Baby Kill, Pieces, an Umberto Lenzi film, which I don't remember which one, and Baba Yaga on there, and apparently none of them were public domain. So
okay. I've got like one of those early Diamond Entertainment DVDs.
Yeah, Brentwood Releasing put it out.
Okay, that could be it. Yeah.
Diamond probably did it too. Yeah.
Yeah. It was probably they ripped a Laserdisc, I'm sure. Yeah, because that was the style at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was
just a VHS rip onto a DVD.
Yeah. That was the one I was thinking of.
I'm like, I know this movie's widescreen.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've seen Spare Parts, but yeah, no, Pieces was the one I was thinking of, because that has Bluto in it. So
he's your red herring.
Yeah, he's your red herring.
It also has the greatest line delivery of bastard ever.
Yes. Yes.
And one of the greatest lines ever in cinema history. Because these Spaniards who made this movie knew exactly how American college girls talked, which is, all I want to do tonight is smoke a joint and fuck on a waterbed. I'm like, oh yeah, that's yeah. That's how American girls talk. They just walk up to you and tell you that in college, and you're off to the races.
That's honestly why I decided to go to college. Imagine my surprise.
Hey Doc, you're licensed to shill. You got a couple things, I imagine.
Before I start the show, though, because we talked about Plan 9, when I was working from home during the Troubles 5 years ago, that was my afternoon movie while I was working. So I watched Plan 9 a lot. Probably more than any person ever should during the course of that year, because it was the warm, comfy blanket to make things feel better while everybody was coughing themselves. Anywho, primarily, one of the main things that keeps me busy in life is that I co-produce Shakespeare Raw, which is a group where the play is determined before we go in, but the actors for that night do not know what role they'll be playing. They pick a character name out of a hat, have to go to a highlighted script and back and just go. We're doing Twelfth Night, Shakespeare's Twelfth Night, June 9th through the 11th at the historic Pabst Brewery, and that's on 9th and Juneau in Milwaukee. So if you're in the area, that's a fun thing to do. It's technically $10 to get in, but if you dress like a pirate this month, which could be as simple as putting on an eye patch, or just printing out a piece of paper that says that you're torrenting something from Pirate Bay, that'll get you in for $5, because we want you to spend money at the bar mostly, because that helps us continue to be able to work there. So that's the primary thing that I show, because we do that from March till October, where every year we do Mackers, because it has witches in it, and that makes it spooky. The other thing that tends to eat up a lot of my time is that I'm also in the Full Frontal Poopetry group. We did a show in March. We did a show in April, because March is International Puppetry Day at the end of the month. And the next show we're doing isn't completely scheduled, but it'll be a Halloween one, and we're working on that now. So that'll be like mid-October next time I get to Wiggle Felt. Which sounds weirder when you say it like that.
Yeah, Wiggle Felt. Okay, Doc. Well, you wiggle whatever you want, sir. And Ian, sir, the floor is yours. License to shill.
Well, my name's Ian Simmons. I run Kicking the Seat, which you can find at kickseat.com, and also on YouTube. Do live streams and interviews and roundtable reviews and all that kind of fun stuff. What I would like to promote, if folks are feeling particularly adventurous, I just put up this evening my 1,762-word written review of The Life of Chuck, the new Stephen King adaptation, which comes out on Friday. Yeah, I had a lot to say about this movie. And the definitive statement about Osgood Perkins the monkey is buried within that review, and I hope that the right people get it to them, and that I get sued or condemned or locked up or something, because it's not kind of Mr. Perkins. Anyway, that's me. That's my deal.
Life of Chuck is Flanagan, right? It's the one
Yeah,
that
Mike
was in
Flanagan.
Toronto last year. Yeah, I wanted to see that. I didn't know it was coming out this Friday.
It's in limited release this Friday, and it's wide next, like on the 13th.
I'm a big Mike Flanagan stan ever since my our good friend Derek Carey introduced me to Absentia, and I saw that, and ever since then, Mike has been consistent for me. Even his not so great stuff is still entertaining to me. He's one of those directors that is consistent. Even if he's not hitting it out of the park every movie, he still is talented and he keeps you interested. I mean, he's done some very interesting films and even made a better prequel to a film that was awful. He made the Ouija Origins film.
Yeah.
And that one was actually better than the Ouija film that was supposed to be, that came out before it. And if it wasn't for the ending, which I felt they had to put in at the Ouija Origins, it would have probably been an even better film, but they had to end it in a way to connect it. Go, oh, look, in case you didn't know, this has to connect up to the first film, so we're going to put this in here. And I go, I love Lynn Shay. She does not need to be in this scene at the end of the movie. Anyway, I digress. Thank you all. We have almost gone the runtime of the American cut of Horror.
Past it.
Actually.
Yeah.
So I
I've
appreciate
been longer
it.
talking about it than I did watching it.
That's right. So thank you all. Please tune in next week for another Over the Hill special as we take a look at the giant spider invasion shot right here in Wisconsin Horror Represent and the Midwest. So should be a lot of fun. And if you're at all interested, specialmarkproductions.com for all your Movie Man needs. I have a new written review up of an anime film that's coming out this week. A little something different. So check that out. And yeah, thanks so much. And we'll hopefully see you next week. Thank you to SLF Abides for your comments. Always great. And everyone else who tunes into our live stream. So until next time, we'll just say good night, everyone.